Good evening, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Thank you for listening to me say shit first thing on this stream. Um, this is that D&D podcast, and as you can tell, as always, we are professional as hell. Um, we are going to be doing some fun improv games tonight, and before we introduce our special guests, we're going to go around again and introduce ourselves. My name's Erin. She, her pronouns. If you were here Tuesday or pretty much any time we've done an interview, you've seen my face. Go, Jonathan.
Oh wait, I'm next.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Hey, I'm Jonathan. It's my first time in one of the interview fake things, but I'm a veteran of Thursdays, various Dresden and Star Wars shenanigans. He/him pronouns, and I'm super excited to have some fun improv.
Hey, Mike Jacobson. I speak really well, especially on camera and on microphone. My name is Mike J. Darkson Berard. I am he/him pronouns. You should know me from Tuesdays and Thursdays and podcasts, and I guess that's it. I'm not actually anywhere else.
And Karen, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
Fantastic. Hello, I'm Karen Twellis. My pronouns are she, her. I am a gamer and an improviser. I'm dual classing it up here, and am furthering my own personal quest of creating the Venn diagram of gaming and improv and making it a perfect circle. So I'm trying. I'm getting there. And here we are. So just one step closer.
One step closer to the nerd tube.
Yeah. The nerd tube. That's what I'm gonna call it. So I had a ton of fun on Tuesday chatting about the book and about the crossovers between improv and gaming in general. And we have kind of a mix tonight of people with various levels of improving experience, which I also love, because I think that gamers make really good improvisers. More than improvisers make good gamers. I said it.
Really? Because one of my secret desires is to try and grab half of my team and be like, let's go play a game.
Yes, but the thing that I love being somebody of a certain type who likes structure and order is I like the parameters of games, and when I have sometimes brought in improvisers to gaming, they don't quite understand the parameters of the game. They're like, but I'm just improvising. I can make what up. I'm just improvising sitting down. And I was like, technically, yes, but there also are rules in a character sheet.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's a little bit of that, of which anybody struggles with when they're learning a game is what are the rules again? What are the parameters of my free-for-all creative play?
I just love the way you phrase that of my boundless abilities and what are the rules that I have to stick within.
But I mean, I think that's great. We kind of talked about that on Tuesday. Is it's good to have parameters and give you some type of confines for your creativity. You can do a lot once you know the parameters, and sometimes having boundless options is overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I find often is that restrictions actually lead to increased creativity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because there are a number of improv games you have this restriction here, you can't do whatever, and it's oh, well, I have to work around that, and so you do things you would never do if you were just said go up there and do a scene. Right?
Yeah, even things that are really the short form kind of gamey types of scenes where you have those restrictions your lines are only one word and yours are only 2 words and yours are only 3 words, and that is a challenge to do, and it's so much fun because you're how can I emote in 1 word or 2? Honestly, I think 1 word is easier because you can just exclaim things all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas 2 or 3, you kind of count it out a little bit.
Yeah, because I found them 3 and 4, and 4 just breaks my brain.
Yeah. It's tough.
Well, speaking about the whole limitations kind of help breed creativity. I've never seen a more creative human being than a kid who is trying to weasel their way around a rule that you made up.
Right, yeah. You're like, so what can I do in this box that's right at the edge of it?
Right. It's like, okay, don't climb up there. It's like, well, if I just roll and eventually I get there,
It's not climbing.
technically I listened.
Yeah.
Children.
Well, I mean, isn't that a lot of gaming too? Is creative problem solving?
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
God, there was a.
So, yeah.
Yeah. What was that, Mike? What was that game we played at PAX, where you had to
Mountains of Madness.
Mountains of Madness? Have you seen
Oh,
that?
I
Have
was
you
sitting
played
here the
that one?
entire time just being like, talk about Mountains of Madness.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a board game, but like
It's like
the
a board game that ends with LARPing almost. I've heard
Yes.
about it.
yes.
I want to
yeah.
play it. It's on my wish.
Because you get restrictions. Exactly that. And no one knows what your restriction is. Like you figure it out, but at the same time, it is hilarious and also really fun and challenging.
Yeah.
I love that game.
I really want to LARP Mysterium because
Look,
they give
look.
you characters. They give you characters,
Mhm.
and like I love this game, but like piece of criticism, the characters mean nothing when you're actually playing, and they give you
Exactly.
these rich backgrounds and all of this framing that then has
the
nothing
art
to do
for
with the game.
literally everything in there is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also,
So good.
there is a Steam version of Mysterium, and if you wanted to have everybody put on a costume and do a LARP stream of Mysterium via Steam,
So like
we would
next week.
absolutely. I am absolutely on board for this, and I know I can
Okay.
get some people to play.
I'm going to send you a Google Calendar invite.
Like, you said that, and I was like, holy shit, I didn't realize how bad I needed this until, like, now-ish.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do that for a while because it just lends itself to it so well, and it's such a fun game to get into character anyways.
Gotta figure out some screen filters for the ghost where it's just, like, washed out sepia tone stuff.
Oh my god.
We can make this happen.
Yeah.
We can make this happen.
Wait, do we need to pause this? Do you need to go work on this right now?
Notes for brainstorming for next time.
Right.
Oh wow.
Aha filter.
Sorry, I gotta stop doing this. We are doing a thing.
Oh my god. Okay, we're so we're gonna do some improv.
Yes.
So I brought it this time to flash in front of the camera.
It's a very pretty blue, and it's a really good
Isn't
book.
it? I love this cover so much. I love the blue. It really pops. It really shows up. So like quick plug for the book maybe. So I started teaching improv, kind of specifically improv for gamers workshops about 7 years back. And do a variety of focuses on like just role playing or kind of GMing skills or more LARPy skills, or I've done some kind of customized for like what a group wants to work on. And I put together all of my lesson plans into a book. And I have to say, a lot of the early development of this, of the content of it and like the structure of the workshops was also a team effort between me and my dear friend Mia Blankensop and also Matthew Klein. And we kind of, the three of us kind of worked together in developing this some years back. And Mia was started off as like the primary instructor for it. And Matt and I would co-facilitate. And I slowly kind of took the whole thing over. Cause she was kind of moving more to starting to train me to teach it. And so I took all of the lesson plans because I meticulously write everything down. And I would write it all down, and then Mia would be like, cool, and like set it somewhere and be like, no, my plans. I planned what we were doing.
I don't think you understand how this works, she says, putting the notebook down.
Yeah. So I put it all together and really kind of reworked the whole thing. So the book is something that people can kind of pick up and play themselves who may have no experience in improv or improvisers and maybe don't know a whole lot about gaming and kind of are worried about like, oh, can I actually be a gamer? Like, yes, you can, because you're using a lot of the same skills. And so it's a very kind of practical workbook, like exercise book almost to play some improv games and talk about the skills that those practice and how you use those in your gaming. yeah, so we're gonna do some stuff out of the book.
I'm excited to do stuff out of the book.
Yeah, and we'll do a couple things maybe not out of the book too, because
Absolutely.
I know, because there's so much good improv and like good ways to practice, and not all of it made it in here. So
A book can
yeah,
only have so many pages.
Unless it's
yeah.
DLC.
Yeah, maybe there will be a re-release someday, or I'll finally get around to like putting more stuff up on the website. But until then, I'm always learning new things too, and so always trying to bring new things to the workshops. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the yes and rule and give my little speech on it. And we talked about this on Tuesday too. Is I think one of the dangers of yes and is if you just start and end with that and you say, and that's improv, saying yes, you leave open all of these like dangerous opportunities for that to be misunderstood or abused. Because the idea of, oh, you have to say yes to whatever content I bring into this story because that's the rule is like not a good rule at all. That's not a great rule.
So I listened to the interview today, and I like broke my neck nodding so much when listening to you talk until you got to yes and I think that's partly because I learned it in the concept you were talking about. I know about. I agree with all of them, especially the safety of your scene partners and respect for them. But yes, and I was taught is more about buying into the reality presented to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, and basically what I'm saying here is that, like, if I go on stage and I'm holding something and I think it's a baby and they say, you baby that dog mercilessly, it's now a dog. My response can't be, no, it's a baby. That's not yes-anding because I'm contradicting something they established. And the reason I'm drawing that distinction is that feels less problematic to me than what you were laying out as you have to agree with what they're talking about. Like if they're going in an uncomfortable direction. Is like to me, as long as I honored the premise that they gave me and pushed the scene in a different direction, I am still yes-anding.
Oh yeah, I mean maybe
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't explained thoroughly, but I absolutely I don't think that yes and should be a hard rule. I think it should be like an excitement of and willing to say yes and having buy-in and willing to be like, I'm going to figure out how to make all of these ideas work and rolling with when when you realize that the reality has shifted a little bit, because often it's like the first person to actually say something is the one to make the truth because they said it out loud. It doesn't matter if you thought you were holding a baby. As soon as somebody your scene partner says, oh, that's a dog, then yeah, you're gonna you're gonna mentally adjust and go with that. So but I think in the context of just being comfortable saying no in the same way that we're comfortable saying no in games with certain content.
Yeah.
Is there the concept of like the X card in improv, like there is in a lot of story games?
I mean, I think I talked about this a little bit on Tuesday. The X card that I have seen is I've seen somebody on stage tell their scene partner, "We're not going there," and they cut the scene, and that was their X card.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, oh yeah, you just got to be really savvy and play your way out of the scene, and you got to pivot and turn into something else, and that's a lot of work and can be really hard and stressful, and you shouldn't have been put in that situation. So a lot of times the X card is telling people afterwards, that was not cool, and if you do that again, we'll never work together again.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like a lot of that puts the labor on the person who is being negatively impacted, which sucks a bunch.
And usually it's at a high stress moment, right? If you're in the middle of a scene and you're suddenly like, whoa, I'm super uncomfortable. How do I creatively get out of this? That is a huge amount of pressure.
It is.
Right?
Yeah. And it's supposed to be fun, right? Like all of this is supposed to be things that we do for fun.
Yeah.
So I like teaching a kind of yes and exercise that shows a little bit of the differences that I thought might be fun for us to play, just as an idea of figuring out like yes ands.
Sure.
And then going a little bit like galaxy brain beyond yes and. So first, we're going to plan a party. is the premise. Whose party is it? It could be one of our parties. It could be somebody that we know. What type of party are we planning? We could plan like a retirement party or a kid's birthday party.
New haircut surprise
And-
party.
A new haircut surprise party. Awesome. Okay. Who got a haircut? One of us or like a friend of ours?
I'm just gonna draw from real life. Let's say Jordan.
Okay.
One of our
So our
friends.
friend Jordan, cool. So our friend Jordan got a haircut, and we are going to throw a party to celebrate that. Fantastic. So the rules of this exercise is we are going to keep throwing out ideas of what we should have at this party, and everyone's going to say, no, how about, and add something new. So
Okay.
that's the first rule, and we're gonna look at that and like how well that worked. Hint, maybe not great, but we're gonna practice it first. Sometimes it's good to kind of do it wrong first, so you just feel you feel it in your body that didn't work very well. So we don't really have a circle so much, so we can just kind of popcorn it out, but and just try to give space for people to all take turns. So it's Jordan's first haircut party, and before every idea, we're gonna say no, how about, and give a new idea. Okay, so I think that we should have a cake.
No. How about we have like a bunch of dangly earrings to show off the short haircut?
Mm.
No, I feel like that's not really on the hair theme. Why don't we get cups that are actually made out of human hair?
No, that's probably some sort of health code violation. Why don't we get like hair bands to show off the hair?
No, what if we get like hats that are giant magnifying glasses so we can see the hair from further away?
No, what if we collect the old hair and build little keepsakes to like memorialize this event?
No, what if we make it a surprise for everybody who's there and we all have hair extensions and then we all rip them off and then you have to wait until that moment to tell who has the haircut?
No, wouldn't it be more authentic if we actually cut everyone's hair?
No. What if we cut everyone's hair and then we make them all into wigs and then we wear each other's hair? Okay, so I'm scene.
But I kind of want that.
Going.
now.
So first of all of those ideas were amazing, and I had to stop myself from like nodding with all of them because they were all fabulous. But how did that feel for you? Like, how successful was our party planning?
Not
Deeply
great.
uncomfortable.
It's like trying to plan anything in a corporate meeting. Everybody's
Oh.
pushing against each other.
Yeah. Did we decide on anything? Did we actually figure out what we were gonna do?
I'm gonna keep pushing the hair cups, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll either keep pushing our own ideas. And I see this sometimes in games where people, they get excited and instead of adding to something, they say, no, we'll do this thing that's bigger, but it's different. And so you're still negating, you're still denying the other ideas. And we were like riffing off of each other, but still saying no. And we were making really fun ideas, but we were still saying that none of the other ideas were going to happen. So that's what happens sometimes when you say no, and it's not necessarily that you're doing it intentionally. You can be doing it because you're caught up in the moment and you're like, no, I thought of a better idea. And like, that's not the improv way. You don't want to have a better idea. You want to make the ideas better, like together, kind of. So let's think of a different party, and this time we're going to say, and I warn you, we're going to get a little like galaxy brain after this, but this time we're going to say yes and. So we're going to say yes and then add a new idea. So let's plan a different party, not the haircut party. Whose party are we going to plan this time?
Papal gender reveal party.
Yes. A papal gender. What does that even look like?
That's for us to decide, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll go around and again, we're going to throw out ideas, and every time we're going to say yes and then just add a new idea.
I feel like this.
So
could
yeah,
go
so
some bad
Aaron,
places.
like start us off with this papal gender reveal party. What's this all
What-
about?
Are you saying people like the Pope?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I really think that we should get a replica, like a cake that is a replica of the Pope Mobile, and when you cut it open, the frosting inside will tell you, the Pope's gender identity.
Yes, and the frosting could emit color like smoke.
Yes, and we should be able to like slice open the Pope Mobile with an ornamental sword.
Yeah, and I think we should get the College of Cardinals to be there and to sing out like Hallelujah right after the cake is cut.
And I think we could have a really great party game where, there's all kinds of stuff where it's like, okay, you have to try and guess like how tall the Pope's going to be and what their like preferred pronouns are going to be and, how big their shoes are and just all kinds of stuff. See who knows the Pope the best.
If we're doing party games, can we also do Pin the Patel and the Pope?
Yes, and we should do that one where like you put candy in a diaper, but this is like Pope's hats and like communion wafers of some type.
Yeah, and I think clearly the papal name should be chosen from a hat from everybody's suggestions, right?
Mm,
Obviously, the mitre has to be the hat.
absolutely. And we can give out like blessed dice. Because just everybody loves dice, and they're blessed, so it just fits with the whole thing.
Yeah, and we could put names on the dice and roll them as well for like compound papal names. I'm not really sure how that works.
Yeah, and like replace the sixes with crosses, so that way you don't get 666 in any possible way.
Exactly. Yes, and we should definitely televise the whole thing, or stream on Twitch.
And we can take donations and funnel that money back into the church because they're always hurting for money, apparently.
Okay.
Oh, thank God.
So sometimes if I'm teaching this, I might let it go around a little bit longer. And so my kind of debrief for this is like, how complicated is this party that we've planned?
Extremely, I think.
It's extremely complicated. And the lesson behind that a little bit is sometimes yes and just builds a shopping list. These things, some of them riffed off of each other, but a lot of it was just more and more and more and more and more. And now we have just a lot to keep in our heads and like somehow all make work. And when you throw in like too many things, sometimes it can get muddy and unfocused. So just saying yes and literally isn't what yes and is about either. So I want to play this one more time, and this time we're going to plan another party, and before every line we're going to say yes, that's perfect, because we're going to explain why the other person's idea is awesome, and then we will add our own idea.
Okay.
So it's going to slow it down a little bit. We're going to say, yes, that's awesome. That's perfect because, and explain why. And then we can add, whatever idea that we're inspired to add by that. So what party are we planning this time?
A coming out party for a werewolf.
A coming out party for a werewolf, like that they are a werewolf. It's their werewolf reveal party.
Their pack is revealing that they are a werewolf to their friends.
Oh, wonderful. Okay,
They're supportive.
great. Yeah, so it's a coming out party for a werewolf. Is it anybody that we know? It's just a werewolf.
Just Craig.
Okay, cool.
Craig Wolf.
Yeah.
Craig Wolf.
So Craig is having a coming out party. We are all there to celebrate them, and just have a good time. So yeah, so we're going to always say that's a great idea because before we add our idea. So I think there should be some type of piñata.
I think that's a great idea because it's already kind of animal themed, and that kind of plays into that and creates it better. What if the piñata is a wolf?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great idea because it's thematically appropriate. So I think if we had the candy inside the wolf-shaped piñata that like looked like entrails, like candy entrails inside the piñata.
That is a great idea because I mean, werewolves have to get used to being around entrails and stuff like that, and so yeah, that'd be awesome. I think while we're doing that, we should make sure the candy is canine safe because you never know.
That is
Mhm.
a great idea because I have had some dogs in my life and they don't mix well with chocolate. So I'm not sure if that it may not affect them the same way, but you always want to err on the side of caution. And
Mhm.
I think whenever we serve the food, we should make sure that we use plastic instead of silverware.
I think that's a great idea because it's very sensitive to allergies that some people may have.
Mhm.
And if we made the silverware, if we use, sorry, instead of the plastic, if we use biodegradable um, materials for the paper plates, those sort of things, it's even more sensitive to our forest living friends.
Yeah, that's a great idea because I've been told by various games that werewolves really care about the environment. And so I also think when we have all the food, we should make sure it's nice and bite sized so they can eat it whenever. I gotta stop justifying what I'm saying because that's the other person's job.
Well, that's okay. But yeah, I think that's a great idea because we want people to, we want Craig to be in wolf form and not be
Mhm.
self-conscious about having to manage a plate and a glass. So I think not just bite-sized, but like, finger food that you can easily pick up with a snout is what we want. So I think that we should maybe also have some type of chocolate fountain.
I think that's a great idea because you really want to give people options. And
Mhm.
they do have, chocolate that's made with like carob or whatever, so it won't affect anybody's digestive system. Um, and really, I think we should have probably like an animal petting area.
Mm.
That is a great idea because, like, they're supposed to get in touch with their wild selves, and that'll help them with the wild animals. I also think that all of our guests should bring a bottle of shampoo because, like, hair man.
No, you
No,
can tell us it's okay. We'll still find reasons why it's the best.
I know,
I
but
think that's a great idea because it's sometimes having more hair than you're expecting beforehand. It's that's not a thing that you really want to find out in the middle of a day, right? When you really want to wash your hair or whatever. And people can bring hair care products that are safe for color treated hair and bleached hair. And that's something that I'm very passionate about now. And I think um, I totally lost the thread of where I was going. Something about bowls. Bowls would be a good idea for our drinks because it's easier with snouts. Or I justified it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think that's a great idea. Everybody can make their own like personalized bowl, like with their name on it, and that can be a party favor to take home. And I think what we should also do is make sure that this takes place during a full moon.
I think that's a great idea because, I mean, the most recent full moon just passed. So, I mean, it gives us 4 whole weeks for planning, and that's really great for not feeling rushed.
Mhm.
Um, Also, I feel like we should order these plates I found that are actually made out of beef jerky to go with maybe for the smaller plates.
Okay, I'm gonna end it there. That was awesome. So comparing like this party versus the last one that we just did, what did we notice is different about how those parties turned out?
It's more focused and it feels like everything has
Hmm.
reasoning behind it. Even if the
Hmm.
reasoning given wasn't what we had in mind, everything seems logical in universe.
Yeah, so it's definitely there were so many amazing creative ideas still, but they were focused a little bit more. And so that goes to as you said, the justification, which is really the part of the of and the yes of the yes and is you're accepting this thing is true. I'm going to weave this into the fiction and explain why this is a good idea. I'm going to celebrate other people's ideas. And now I'm going to build off of that. And because I'm spending the time to like think about it, your ideas are going to kind of be a little bit more tied in and focused on that as opposed to yes, random thing, yes, other random thing.
It also felt really pleasingly cooperative, at least to me.
Yeah,
hmm
Yeah, it feels so nice when people are like, it when someone justifies and validates your idea, you're like, oh, cool. I feel good about that. Someone liked my idea. So that's kind of, one of the lessons that I'm trying to give more about what like yes and is. It's about being excited for people's ideas, and being willing to work with them and taking the time to really honor them before you build off of them. So that's my yes and lesson.
That was fun. I like it.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. So I talked about this other exercise on Tuesday, and again, it's one that I love as a warm up, and I wanted to kind of go through a couple different things, but I like this one because it's also a good way to kind of get ideas going. It's called 3 Things. And so a lot of my personal favorite exercises are ones that involve saying, like, all yelling something or chanting something at the same time and having some type of coordinated hand gesture. I find those fun. So those are the things that I like to teach. So 3 Things is a category game. And we can kind of pass it around in whatever order we want. So I might say to Aaron, I'm going to say, what are 3 things? And I'm going to give a totally random category. Like, hey, Aaron, what are 3 things that you could wear instead of a shoe? And I just want you to tell me the first 3 things you can think of.
A baguette, a cardboard box, and a small office garbage can.
Fantastic. So what we are going to do now that Aaron has said 3 things is we're just going to celebrate that by shouting 3 things, and we're going to kind of pump our fists. 3 things.
3 things.
Yeah. Different people do it differently, but this is the way that I like it. So we're not questioning how accurate those answers were. They can be any level of bizarre to totally logical, because it's whatever you can think of. The exercise is more about just being comfortable saying the ideas that you have in your head, and not like questioning yourself and like criticizing your ideas and being like, oh, but that one's not funny, that one's not clever, that one's not interesting. So the exercise is not to come up with funny, clever, and interesting things, but just 3 things, and we're going to celebrate that you said 3 things. So Aaron, you can now tag someone else and give a totally different category.
Jonathan, what are the 3 most unorthodox toppings for nachos?
Soap, grease, bubble bath.
3 things.
3 things.
Yeah.
Mike, 3 alternatives to the grocery store.
The bodega, the mall, and just the dumpster.
3
things.
Karen, what is the best thing to carry water in?
Oh, a leather skein, that's what it's called. A fancy teacup, and just my hands.
3 things.
Aaron, what are 3 things that are up in the sky?
A bird, a plane, and Superman.
3 things.
3 things. Jonathan, what are 3 things that you have found in your nightstand?
My glasses, my Zune, seriously, and my phone.
3 things.
3 things.
Mike, 3 things you'd see at a zoo.
Animals, peanuts, and children.
3 things.
Karen, what's the worst thing to get out of hair?
Oh, peanut butter, somebody else's hair, and malaise.
3 things.
3 things.
Great. Okay, cool.
I thought you said Malaysia at first, and I was like, all right.
I don't know. This is like the existential dread and sorrow. It's hard to get out of your head.
It really leaves a residue. It's
The
that's a whole thing.
afterburner helps, I guess.
So all of those ideas were amazing. Congratulations, we won the game. And the things I like to ask is, how did it feel? What did you find challenging about that game?
It's hard to not censor ideas that are about to come out of your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What did you find? Why were you censoring your ideas?
Well, I think instinctively, like, especially since we're doing a stream, it's like I want to do the most entertaining or the funniest thing.
Yeah. I mean, don't we all? Because we're sorry, you were saying.
No, after you.
Well, just that we're all storytellers, and we're all used to trying to tell an entertaining story and doing some level of performance, and definitely is streaming. You're doing more of a performance in your game, so there is pressure. And so that inner critic can really
your
come into
asshole
play.
is in my
Or cats. Cats can also come into play.
She just wants to make sure that you see her butt today. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike. What were you going to say?
Oh no, I just wanted to make sure that
You're a jerk.
the things that come out of my mouth are appropriate for the level of whatever we're doing. So.
That too. That's an important thing to consider, and that kind of comes back to the yes and is thinking about, there are times when perhaps you should question your thoughts a little bit of like, is this a game with kids? Maybe I should watch my language. I mean, maybe not. Maybe the parents are fine with it. Whatever. But yeah, you need to think about the buy-in of the genre of the game, the tone, the rating, all of those things that you do want to be mindful of. Anything that people said is off the table content-wise, and so the danger of yes and sometimes and just of improv, of we get a little too excited maybe, and we're like, I can say anything. Woo! Like, quieting your inner critic is not the same as turning off your decency filter.
Those are two switches.
Two separate switches, and we should be very mindful of one of them, and try to just be kinder to ourselves and the other about questioning our ideas on like, how good are they, and are they smart enough and funny enough. So that's kind of one of the lessons that I like to give with that game too, as we're warming up, is also like, it's great for you to get like free flowing and comfortable saying things, but we also still want to always keep in mind that like the ideas that we're saying are ones that are welcome in the room.
Mm-hmm.
You want to give ideas that you're pretty sure people would be like excited to say yes to. So when other people were answering the three things, were you all kind of like answering along in your head as well? Did they end up saying something that you were thinking of, or was it something totally different?
Every now and then there was some overlap for me, but it was like, the zoo, you animals.
Yeah.
It's like you go right to the animals. Well, now what?
Exactly. And that's how I ended up with popcorn and children.
That's great. And there are things that you would see there.
Yeah.
And so, some of the ideas that are obvious for us might not be obvious to other people. And so that's always very delightful when someone gives an answer that you wouldn't have been expecting. But also sometimes the answers that are obvious for us are also obvious to other people. And that's deeply satisfying because you're like, oh, we're on the same page. I was thinking that too. So you can have a positive response either way to people's ideas. They'll either be like surprising and fun, or exactly what you were thinking, and so like deeply satisfying and validating. Yeah, like those are both fun things. So thinking about that, like you don't always have to be on the same page, but you don't always have to like try to come up with something weird and new. The harder that you try to be funny and unique in improv, like it's not going to work. It's going to be really obvious, and the audience is not going to like it. They can tell when you're trying.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really hard thing to tell improvisers and tell yourself, like, don't be funny.
It's the weirdest lesson, but like it's come up in every bit of training I've had, which is literally do not try to be funny, be true, and the funny will show up.
Yeah, just be authentic,
Mm-hmm.
and think about what, trying to just be in the moment. And the funny things will happen, and you will find yourself in weird situations. But if your character is really living it and taking it seriously, that's gonna bring some absurdity to it as well.
Well, and I guess to draw on the improv game connection there, like, so we've all played long campaigns, and like, you don't really set out to create hilarious moments for the most part in long campaigns, but I can't think of one of ours that haven't had multiple, right?
Yeah.
You get a bunch of people together just being whatever, and it's gonna come up, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, and it's so much. It feels so much nicer when it comes up organically because everybody knows each other and you're in it and you're listening to each other and you're building the story together, and these weird absurd things happen because of that free flowing of ideas, not because we're trying. So yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit, kind of moving off of three things, is justifying, making things make sense. And we have a lot of narrative freedom in gaming to establish a lot of truths in the world and kind of redefine physics as we like, depending on how much leeway we want to give ourselves. But we can always kind of put things together, like when we were answering those three things, those were three things that made sense to us in some way. So we can always find a way to make things make sense and work together. So like, for example, if we played this game backwards and called it Things 3, what I might do is then give somebody 3 random objects.
Ooh.
And it's up to them to kind of like put them in the box and tell me like, what if you put those 3 random objects in a box, what would the label on the box be? And that box can be as big as you want it to be. It's just how are you going to link those 3 things together? So and then we do the same thing, but we say Things 3 instead of 3 things.
You gotta do backwards hand motion.
You do backwards hand motion.
Things 3.
Yeah.
3. All right.
Things 3. So if I said, Jonathan, a candlestick, the moon, and nighttime.
All 3 things that it's difficult to see by.
Yeah. Things 3.
3. Oh wow, this is going to be so much harder than naming 3 things the other way.
So I will tell you though, as the person giving out those 3 things, you can be totally random. You don't need to try to feed your partner something that you're hoping they're gonna pick up on. Like we're not trying to give secret messages right now. The challenge is just to take 3 random objects and put them in a box. So
all right.
Whatever things, 3 things you can see, you can name those.
Aaron, a cat, a Hummer, like Humvee, and a tree.
Awful things to make an airplane out of.
Things 3.
Things 3. Mike, a vampire, a Nintendo 64, and 3 gallons of potato salad.
Oh, my 16th birthday. Karen, shoes, cups, and corks.
Shoes, cups, and corks. Oh, things that you would put in a cabinet. Things 3. Jonathan, let's see, a single rose, a fireplace, and footprints.
Oh, clearly a romantic evening.
Things 3.
Things 3. Okay, so Aaron, a ring, a wreath, and a bologna sandwich.
Things you should not eat. Wait.
That thing's 3.
Mike, a dog, a broken sofa, and a monster truck.
I mean, the easy money here is things you shouldn't eat.
Just our answer for everything now.
That's 3.
Wow. Let's see, Karen. An empty water bottle, a bathrobe, and a sunset.
Oh, just another lovely Saturday night alone.
Wow. It's 3.
Things 3.
So that's a little different. So we can break that down now and talk about like what was challenging about that game.
My 16th birthday, Mike.
I love the categories that people make up for
Oh,
3. They are always so bizarre. I love them.
Guys,
wow.
come on, vampire books.
I forgot a bologna sandwich
Uh,
was food.
I just really didn't like bologna sandwiches. I
I
was
was
like,
thinking the saddest Christmas, but that was even better.
Fuck, Mike.
Yeah, so that's weird to me coming from it because like I'm trying to not associate things, which is like the opposite of what I normally would do.
yeah.
Playing that in reverse is super weird. I haven't seen that before. I like that. I really do.
Yeah, it can be super weird. The reason why I encourage people not to try to categorize is because then there might be this feeling of disappointment of, oh, I was trying to hand you
Yeah.
clearly a category and
You just
And-
didn't get it.
you didn't get it. The other person worries like, oh, I didn't get it. They were trying to tell me what to do. They were trying to give me the answer, and so I try to just take that away. But it definitely is
Mhm.
hard to come up with 3 disparate objects.
Have you ever heard of the game Busted Tea?
No.
Okay. Oh, I actually kind of hate it, but it reminds me of this because basically all you do is just what person describes an image you could see on a T-shirt, and then the next person gives the tagline.
I have.
Okay,
I played that.
because this is what that's reminding me of, but
Yeah.
like I hate this way less than I hate Busted
That's
Tea.
That's a Jackbox game too.
Is it?
It's TKO. So what they do is you draw like 3 pictures. You have like 90
Mhm.
seconds to do it. And then after everybody draws their 3 pictures, you have like 45 seconds to put as many silly lines from a t-shirt in there.
Mhm.
And what it does is it gets the pictures and the taglines and shuffles them up and gives you like 6 of each, and you have to make a t-shirt design to submit. And then they do like a battle royale
Yeah.
tournament style thing.
Yeah, but it has that same friction that you're talking about, where like when you describe something for the tea, am I trying to feed them something? Am I just randomly giving them weird associations? What am I doing?
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah, so my focus on things 3, kind of in the Improv for Gamers context is just we can make anything make sense.
Yeah.
We're all super creative by being gamers. We are problem solvers. We can categorize things, and we can justify how these things fit together in one way or another. So there was a game that I talked about on Tuesday that I'd love to run through again. That's also a good justification game. And there are a lot of games where you do like word association,
Mhm.
and there are some of those in the book and some that aren't. There's lots of cool kind of like mind meldy games and justification games. But this is one that I really like because it's just straight up bizarre problem solving. So everyone's you kind of do it in pairs, and each person is going to think of a problem that they have and then a totally unrelated object. And when I teach this in this workshop, I let people know that you could make these you could think this all up in advance. Like if you want to challenge yourself to think it up in the moment, that's fine, but that's not what I'm testing. Like that's not what we're practicing in this. So if you want to take a second to come up with an idea and an object, like you can have that time, just because that's not the focus of this exercise. So I'll come up with one of I missed my alarm and I'm late for work is my problem, and all I have is a silk necktie. So Aaron, what is your problem and your object?
I am bleeding internally, and all I have is this movie poster that I stole.
Okay, cool. I'm going to solve your problem with my object. So you're bleeding internally.
Mm-hmm.
I have a silk necktie. Um, I'm just going to tourniquet as much as I possibly can, and it's gonna keep it still internal, but like less so somehow. So I'm just gonna tourniquet like your whole torso with that silk necktie, which will help save your life until we can get you to the hospital.
It's also very fashionable, so.
Yeah. So now,
Mhm.
can you solve my problem? My problem was I overslept. I'm late for work with your object, which was the movie poster.
So I know that you're late for work. One thing you can do, I know there's a lot of dogs in your neighborhood.
Mhm.
If you can bribe the dog walker to just give you all the leashes, you can shout commands into the tube of the poster, and then the dogs will listen and obey and run from the loud noise.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And that's it. That's the exercise. So what I loved, one thing that you did, which was pull in other things that are also true,
Mhm.
in order to make the whole thing work, which is great, and that's something that we do a lot in problem solving in games is we're like, well, can we assume that in this world, this thing exists, or physics works like that, or security guards always take their breaks at 10 o'clock. Like sometimes you have to establish like a couple of other things to be true,
Yeah.
which is great. So and it's also having that freedom of like, this is going to work because you said that it'll work. And if we were gaming, we might go to the dice and see how well does it work. But some games are like less based on things that make sense in the world than others. So like sometimes these things can just work because we said that they would, and if it's believable enough, then we'll be like, cool, yeah. Or if we just like the idea enough, sure, that works. So Mike and Jonathan, do you want to try?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Do you got something, Mike? Do you want me to start?
Yes. I
Okay.
keep chipping my fingernail polish off, and it looks terrible, but I can't constantly reapply it. And all I have is a reading nook chair swing.
Okay. My back is killing me, and all I have is this ski suit. So
So,
I'm gonna.
Mike,
Yep.
can you solve that problem with your object?
Yeah, this reading nook chair swing actually looks perfect for kind of a reclining in and like gently being rocked back and forth in. It's very soothing.
Declining.
Yeah.
You could really bang on your
It's wonderful for
chainsaw.
your back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or getting a back rub in the chair.
Uh-huh. Hi, Aaron. How are you? That's good. I think, and because you're constantly chipping fingernail polish there, I think we can give you the ski suit, and that's going to let everybody know that you're super active and outdoorsy. So it doesn't really matter that your nails are chipped because clearly you earned those chips.
Nice. Yay,
I
crisis
feel
solved.
Yay!
Huzzah!
Yeah. So I love that exercise because you can practice
Mhm.
just solving things. And again, as gamers, we're super creative and we can always
Mhm.
find solutions to problems if we give ourselves the freedom to maybe, bend the world a little bit to make sense. Cool.
Yay!
How are we feeling?
I'm having fun.
Cool.
Excited.
Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to move on a little bit to thinking about still things that go together and buy-in, and because this would kind of come up a little bit is group buy-in is so important. And so there's a game that I love doing as a warm-up called I'm a Tree. And I don't know if I've played this over stream, so I'm very excited to do that because normally it can be kind of a physical game, but I'm the more that I'm playing these games over Twitch, the more I'm realizing that they work so well that in so many different mediums, that I wish I hadn't written it so with like such ableist language of like stand around,
Mhm.
Mm.
dude, move this way. Like I shouldn't have done that. I regret some of my wording now.
Well, if you ever do an updated printing, that's one of the things you can make a note to fix.
Honestly, I would. If I had the opportunity, I would scrub so much of that language because it's not necessary. And there's a lot of things of like walk around, stand up, and like I can't even stand up a lot in my exercises. I get tired and need to sit down, and even just having that wording is restrictive and ableist. So I like that I'm a tree. Is something that I realize you don't need to actually play in person. So, but it's a game of making three things that go together. But we make them one at a time with 3 different people. So it's called I'm a Tree because the naming conventions of improv games are either the thing that you yell, like 3 things, or maybe a line that you always say or start with. In this case, it's I'm a tree. So we're each going to kind of embody something and make this little tableau of 3 things that go together. And so the first person is going to say, I am a tree. And if you were playing this in person, you might kind of move to the center of the group. You would pose and kind of like maybe hold an approximate tree pose. This is my tree. It's perfect. And you do that just so people remember what you are, and you kind of just hold it. So you would start and say, I am a tree. Now another person is going to come in and add something to this tree that is something that you could think of, but is going to be somehow make sense thematically that you would see it near or on a tree.
So I am a nest in the tree.
Fantastic. Yeah. So we've got a tree and a nest. And so we need one more thing. And you could attach it to the nest, you could attach it to the tree, or you could kind of tie both together. But again, you're thinking about what's something that kind of makes sense with this tree and this nest.
I'm a feather in the nest.
Yes. Fantastic. So we have our 3 things. 3 things, but we don't have 3 things this time.
Tree things.
I love it.
You gotta sway while you say.
That's it. I'm leaving.
Oh man. So I started. So I would decide kind of who I'm going to take with me from this group. So I'm going to say I'll take the feather. Okay. And if we were playing this in person, then the 2 of us would kind of exit from the focus, and we'd be leaving Jonathan. And Jonathan's going to say what he is still, which is
I am a nest.
Cool. So we start now with the nest as our first thing, and we're going to add 2 things again.
I am an egg.
Perfect.
You go.
I am that kind of gross bit of clotted blood and feather on the egg.
I will take the gross bit of clotted feather and blood off your egg.
What I think of when I think of like fresh.
I know.
They're gross.
I just didn't want to think where it goes after that, so I'm like, no, you come with me.
Yeah, that's.
I'm getting chickens, and I had no idea. I'm an egg.
Right.
I'm a snake.
I am a fry.
You're a fry?
No.
What are you?
I was gonna let Aaron go.
Okay.
I'm a snake.
Mm.
Danger noodle.
Nope rope.
Let's see. I am the chicken coop that the snake has slithered into. So Mike, who are you going to take with?
I'll take the coop.
Cool.
I'm a slithery snake.
Ooh.
I am a tempted Eve.
What? A tempted Eve.
Tempted Eve.
Wow.
I am Wow. There's only so many places you can take that. You know what? I am a perfectly shining scale captured the sun.
Nice.
I'm gonna take the scale with me.
I'm a tempted Eve.
Hmm. I am an assortment of fig leaves that Eve might be sporting.
I'm a disapproving finger wagging from the sky.
That's too Monty Python-ish. I have to take the assortment of fig leaves.
I'm a disappointing finger wagging from the sky.
I am a misbehaving child.
Ooh. Ooh, I'm the Charlie Brown parent voice. The
I take with me the child.
I am a Charlie Brown adult voice.
I am my last calculus lecture.
I am 4 empty cans of Red Bull.
Oh.
All right, I'm gonna cut that there. So that's a game that you can just kind of keep spinning for forever. What did you find challenging about that?
Sometimes trying to find a third thing that felt like it
Mm-hmm.
kind of naturally fit in there was a little bit hard.
Mm-hmm.
But wasn't just like the first thing I thought of, right? Because like I don't
I
for
mean,
some
it
reason like that's true. I was unnecessarily censoring myself.
yeah. Because we're not trying to think of like what's the most interesting group of three things, but just what are things that go together. And so, these ideas can be pretty, not boring, but like they can be a little dull, and that's okay.
So I actually think this works a little bit better here over stream in that it leads you to the conceptual places
Yeah.
easier, right? Because like, how do you pantomime the Charlie Brown voice, right? There's
Mhm.
not really a good physical way to enact that, but for stream it's fine. You get the idea out there and it works.
When I practice this with classes, I'll normally add the restriction of no people,
Mm-hmm.
because we'll immediately start throwing in characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, with stream, I think there's like less pressure to do that. You can be more conceptual.
Yeah.
I enjoy the mix both of kind of concepts and objects.
Yeah.
So yeah, so games like that are really good for just practicing buy-in and
Mhm.
also still like listening and honoring what's already there, building off of the ideas that you've already had. And I think it's also good to identify that sometimes people are more comfortable starting it off, and sometimes people are more comfortable being the second or third idea.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with either one, but it's sometimes good to know, do you tend to be the person who starts things off, or who is more of a support role?
Yeah.
And I mean, we need both. We need
Mhm.
somebody to start us with an idea. We can't play three things without somebody asking us a question first.
Right.
And we also can't play three things without the other person answering. So like you need both of those, the kind of give and take.
So I'm looking at the clock. We've been going for about an hour. Do we want to take like a quick 5-minute break? Stretch our legs, go refill water and stuff like that.
Yeah, I could do a break.
Okay. Those of you in chat, please stay tuned. We'll be back in about 5-ish minutes. See you in a minute. Alrighty, and we are back. Thanks to those of you who stuck around, and to all the new people. What's up? We're gonna make some shit up.
Improv. So I focus a lot in especially kind of the improv for gamers, like kind of more beginning class about what is improv, about a lot of buy-in and just listening and honoring other people's ideas, because that's such an important first step to have in order to like work together. But I wanted to move on a little bit to characters, and thinking about kind of making up characters on the spot, because that's also a place that we censor ourselves, that we edit ourselves a lot, is we're like, oh, I need to have the coolest character and I need to think it up entirely myself, and it's all on me to come up with this like amazing original character. And that's not how characters are made in improv. You know, they're made in pieces, and other people are going to declare things that are true about your character that you didn't know were true when you started that character, and you learn about your character along the way. So there's lots of good improv exercises for kind of making up characters on the spot. But the first one that I wanted to play, that I'd hinted about on Tuesday, is talking about characters having weaknesses, which is a problem that both gamers and improvisers struggle with sometimes, is not wanting to lose. Which, like, I get it. I totally get it. Like, you know, if you're performing as an improviser, you might not want, you know, your character to be the one who's losing the game, who's being laughed at. Like, that might not be something that you're having fun with. Like, it's not like a huge judgment on people's like immortal character, you know, their souls, that they don't. It's a common thing to not enjoy. But in improv, it's important to be okay with being affected by things and having things matter to you and having weaknesses and caring about things. And, you know, in order to care about things, you have to have some vulnerability. Likewise, in a lot of games, of course, you know, in some we want our characters to stay alive, you know, and level up and get more cool shit and survive a campaign, and we're invested in them emotionally as well and in their stories. But we should also be comfortable with them having weaknesses, you know, the same way that you'll have like a trouble aspect, or you'll have merits and flaws. Like, there should still be things that like your character is not perfect at. So this is a game where we just have fun telling secrets, not our own. We're gonna make up secrets. Just when you're like, people like, do we have to start sharing our own secrets? It was like, no, we're gonna make them up. So it's called Animal Secrets, and we're going to pick an animal collectively. And so, for example, we might pick like a cheetah. And we're going to imagine maybe it's like, you know, smash cuts of different cheetahs in confessional telling their secrets. Or maybe it's like a round of a bunch of cheetahs in a support group all telling secrets. We're just going to keep coming up with different secrets that cheetahs might say. And they could be something that's very cheetah related, you know, of like, I actually just like to take it slow and just enjoy a leisurely walk. Or it could be something that would be funny for a cheetah to say, you know, if they were an anthropomorphic cheetah, of, you know, I've been embezzling from my company and it's gotten out of control, or I have really bad gambling habits. And, so, you know, it can be any type of secret. But because it's an animal telling it, it just makes it a little bit sillier. And so it makes it fun. And then, again, in the tradition of games that I enjoy playing, after each one, we're going to say secrets. And I like to do this little thing with your finger. Secrets. So I have to do like way up here for the camera, like waist height, but like it's good to get it in shot. Secrets. So we all say secrets at the same time.
I like it.
Yeah. So let's pick a different animal than cheetah. And we'll just kind of do a run and come up with different ideas. And then when that well runs dry, maybe we'll pick another animal or we'll just move on.
Brown bear.
Brown bear?
Brown bear. Yeah.
Cool. Brown bear. All right, we're gonna tell some brown bear secrets.
I actually went gray 10 years ago, and I've been dyeing it to keep up the illusion.
Secrets.
I actually really enjoy molasses over honey.
Secrets. I get insomnia in winter. Secrets.
I know that we're supposed to be like trees, but I am afraid of heights.
Secrets.
Last time I went in a cave, I had such an awful experience. I swore it off for the rest of my life.
Sometimes I sneak out and try and steal human food.
Secrets.
I've recently taken to wearing green neckties when nobody's around.
Jesus.
Sometimes I'm afraid I'm merely just as intelligent as the average bear.
Average bear. God. Secrets.
She started it.
Oh, let's pick a new animal. Let's pick another animal and do a bit more.
Meerkats.
Meerkats. Awesome.
I don't know how deep that well is, but
We'll figure it out.
Aaron's already laughing.
I think I can see why, but we'll find out.
One time I made a tunnel in our burrow and it collapsed and it smothered a bunch of baby meerkats.
Jesus!
And I never told anybody that it was me.
I don't know what any of my family looks like because I'm nearsighted.
Secrets. I will dig wide holes with the hopes that an elephant will trip.
Secrets. To be honest, I have no idea what a meerkat's supposed to do. I'm just faking it.
Secrets.
I'm actually a ferret. I just snuck into it at the zoo because there's free food.
You know how we go up on those hills and we look around and stuff? We're supposed to be looking out for predators. I'm just convinced that everyone's left me.
I wish a warthog would be my friend. Sorry.
Really giggly. So it's just, I like it because you just have fun, like, sharing some type of vulnerability. And from a gamer perspective, I think it's really good to have player knowledge of like character weaknesses. So the characters might not know this, but the players will. And we can drive to like make these things important. So if somebody says like, oh, in my backstory, I collapsed a tunnel, like you're like, wow, that's something. We have these secrets because they're important to our character in some way, but they're never going to actually come out if we just actually keep them secret. So like we need to weave them into the plot. The other players need to know about them if we want it to matter.
Makes sense.
Yeah. From an improv perspective, I find that it's a great trick to kind of get out of trouble. If you're in a scene and you realize you're like, oh no, I don't know what we're doing anymore. You look your partner right in the eye and you say, there's something I have to tell you. And you admit something. And it could be the most banal secret ever, but you admit it. Like it meant you were hiding this for a reason. And now you're going to justify why you were hiding it, why that was important, why you were keeping it from the other person, how they feel about it. You're going to start looking at the relationship. It's like a great kind of trick to get out of when you're like, I don't know where this scene is going. Secret.
I like it.
So, yeah. Now I've revealed all of my tips on how I
Oh no!
improvise. But yeah, that's a tool I like to try to remember if I'm panicking in a scene. I'm like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing, and everyone's watching me.
That's that's always such a horrible feeling, and like going from and training yourself to go from oh my god, what the hell am I doing to okay, fix this. Like there are ways to fix this. Just do one of them.
Exactly. Yeah. And just having that confidence of being in a place of uncertainty and being like, cool, we're gonna figure this out. I'm confident that like, we're gonna play our way out of this. I'm gonna just listen to my partner. Your partner is there to support you too, and this is collaborative. So you're there to really focus on building each other up, and it's easier to do that than like focus on yourself,
Yeah.
so it works out well.
Yeah.
So I like playing Animal Secrets to kind of remind people that your characters should care about something and have a flaw, and you can have a tragic backstory if you want, but like please share it with us so we can make that backstory matter and so we can all enjoy it.
Yeah.
Child tunnel murder.
Yeah. So there's a game from the book about making characters collaboratively, and it's also again a game that I like because we shout and shake our heads. There's a theme. And so it starts with one person is going to declare the character's name and pronouns. So their name is Emil, her name is Sandra, and you just start with that just so we have a basis, and then we're going to start throwing out facts one at a time. And imagine that you're kind of like building out their backstory. We're not building plot. We're not focusing on NPCs or other characters. We're just talking about this person, the things that they like, the things they don't like, their stuff about how they look, maybe what they do. So it's kind of just facts, but not forward plot building facts.
Okay.
But after every fact that we share, we're all going to say yes, and we can do the same thing that we did for 3 things. Yes. Which is also just good practice in like being enthusiastic towards people's ideas.
I like it.
So the things that we want to think about though is we're making up this character together. So kind of still thinking about when we were doing like I'm a tree. We want things that kind of make sense. We don't want to undo a fact that somebody already gave us by giving something that contradicts it. And we always want to make sure that we're giving facts about this person that we think other people are going to be enthusiastic about saying yes to. And I will say that when I facilitate these games, I am not afraid as the facilitator to ask people to try again. Yeah, if there is someone, because sometimes there is, who wants to find the exact edge of the box and go through it, and sometimes that's not fun.
Time for casual racism.
Yeah. So so I give people the freedom to also like if they said something and they're like, oh no, wait, never mind. Like change it, take it back. Like it's just fine. We're just making up facts about a character. We're fighting on this. So I try to do very low stress improv instructing of like, don't worry about it. We can redo our ideas. We can take anything off the table. And if we really don't like something, we can ask someone to change it. But so with that in mind, and it doesn't come up that much, but I think it's because we don't have that same safety net that you do with the X card of like a thing that we all understand. It's kind of good to just always remind people like, yes and is not, it is not like a blank check of consent.
Absolutely.
It is not. So
consent can be revoked at any time.
Exactly. So you can always say like, I don't like that idea.
Okay.
Because we're also not doing a scene with like an audience who would be weirded out by us breaking character.
Right.
So
Yeah.
So there's not that pressure to like play your way out of a problem. So we're gonna make up a character. So whoever is inspired with a name can declare that person's name and with their pronouns too.
His name is Samuel, never Sam.
Yes. Samuel is a carpenter.
Yes.
Yes.
As a hobby, he has begun working on butter sculptures.
Yes.
Yes.
Samuel wants to travel to Cork, Ireland, where they once set the price on the butter trade.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm so curious as to whether that's true now.
I know.
Anyways, but we're focusing on Samuel.
Yes. He taught himself how to do carpentry based on YouTube videos.
Yes.
Yes.
But he went to classes for the butter sculpture.
Yes.
Yes.
Samuel has a collection of pristinely polished drill bits.
Yes.
Yes.
He has named his favorite drill bit Matilda.
Yes.
Yes. Samuel refuses to use power tools.
Yes.
Yes.
Samuel's dream job is to be a carpenter in like a colonial Williamsburg reenactment village.
Yes. He hopes that one day his butter sculptures will finally impress his father.
Yes.
Yes.
We got one more.
One more.
That's okay. We can cut it there on Samuel.
Yeah.
You kind of play this game until you run out of ideas. Sometimes they're very fruitful, and sometimes they're a little bit shorter. But so I loved Samuel. I liked that we found out that he had some like pleasing his father issues. We found out a little bit about his hobbies and the differences between them, and like the seriousness that he takes to learning how to do butter sculptures. I liked the difference between that a lot. So and I like this one a lot as a follow-up to the party planning, because we were all very focused, and we can throw out totally different ideas, or we can build on the ones that other people have. We can kind of do a bit of both.
Yeah, I feel like we were doing a little bit of both on that one, and I think it worked pretty well.
Yeah, because sometimes the well runs dry on the butter sculptures, and you want to add a new fun fact. I feel like I call that fun fact. We should just shout that instead. What did people find challenging about that?
I had a hard time hooking in for some reason.
Okay.
Well, they're trying to find something that is different, but at the same time reinforces what's gone before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's kind of harmonious without being the same thing.
Yeah, but it's still, just like Three Things, it's a brainstorming game. These ideas can be just a slight modification on a fact previous. They can be a totally new fact. There's no rules within that of like what types of ideas these need to be. We're just riffing on a character and coming up with stuff about them. And one of the reasons why I like playing this game with gamers is to also remind people that if you don't have all of the facts about your character, that is okay. Again, you have like a whole table of very creative storytellers that you could ask to bounce ideas off. And at the end of the day, it's your character. You could decide if you want to take all of those or not. But I don't think there's so much pressure on like I have to come up with all my character stuff myself. And I like really want to remind people that like the collaborative is not just in the plot, but like in the care gen as well.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's okay to bounce that out to people and get ideas, and then you riff off of it and you come up with fun, cool stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes you're always going to have people who are more prepared than others, but if you roll up to a session 0 or something, and somebody has an 8-page background, and you've got likes, hats, and once rode on a boat, you feel like you're not prepared, or you're not playing it right sometimes.
Well,
yeah.
And actually, like, because the 8-page backstory and stuff like that, as games have gotten more collaborative and given players more buy-in on and authorship of the world, that almost plays negatively to me, right? So like 13th Age has the thing where like, no, you can update your skills by giving us more information on what that means.
Mhm.
And like it's like spout lore in Dungeon World or anything like that,
Yeah.
where the players are intentionally authors of the setting. So
Yeah.
like that 8-page thing kind of breaks up the group dynamic,
Yeah.
whereas like you should be telling a story together.
In Dresden Files, where that group 0 is literally you passing your character sheet around, buddy,
Yeah,
down an adventure that they had with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like leaving some space to fill things in and discover it later, you'll end up with 8 pages. You will
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
end up with 8 pages if all you brought was a couple note cards of likes hats.
yep. Well, that
And
I always
books.
like leaving the stuff blank lets you fill it in later on as the story progresses and you know the order. And I think it's a good way of cheating into making it feel more like a traditional story.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I'm saying, is like, oh, those were the goblins of this tribe. Well, yeah, I've run into them before. They're the ones who like, scared me when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't write that from scratch without being part of the campaign, but it feels like the things that games often try to emulate.
Yeah, yeah, it gives you the ability to make new information relevant
Mhm.
and tie it in without having to add, just pile on more stuff, but giving yourself the space.
Yeah.
I like when I play Fate games to kind of leave a couple slots blank. Also because you can't always predict all the skills you need, and sometimes it's kind of nice to be like, oh, good thing I left a spot for pilot, because that's what I do now.
Of course I know how to do that. What are you talking about?
I don't know how to pilot. This is definitely part of my backstory that I planned the whole time.
It says it right here. Hold on. Do you have a pen? It says it right here.
It does, yeah. So like
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, but if other people are
Yeah.
not okay with that, that is their game. And they are welcome to play it as long as they're having fun with it. So
That's fair.
yeah, I think one of the things that I try a lot in this book is and when I'm teaching, is to be very neutral and not judgy on different people's play styles, because I've played a lot of different types of games and also not played. I have not played all the games,
Right.
and people are going to come in with a lot of different preferences in their style of gameplay, but everybody can benefit from a little bit of improv practice in terms of just working together collaboratively.
Oh yeah.
And so I try not to stress like improv means we should all play Fiasco all the time, because Pathfinder too, and like
Mhm.
improv is really helpful there as well. So it's all good, because it's all just teaching you skills about how to be comfortable being creative and working together and listening to each other and like telling a story. So
Awesome.
I try not to get too preachy on like how to play.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I mean, people can play wrong if they want.
people
Oh
can
my
play around
God.
with
Oh my god.
as long as people are having fun with it, they're doing it right. Like the point is to have fun. So the important thing in a group is that you're all having fun.
Yeah.
It's not, one person is having fun at the expense of another, or, two people are kind of having fun at a different game, or everybody's having fun except for one person. Then it's a problem. So there's a game that I like to kind of follow up with, that's building characters, but we kind of build a character on our own, but we're going to tie it into a relationship with somebody else. So there's so many great games that have that relationship mechanic.
Mhm.
And it's also just a good kind of GMing technique to have in that session 0 to tie people together about how do you know each other. And so this is a great improv game to do that, to build like your ensemble cast of your well-rounded party. And it also kind of practices buy-in. So we would pick something like a setting. Like if we imagine that this is our TV show with an ensemble cast, like Cheers or Community, or I'm blanking on every other
Scrubs.
Scrubs. Thank you. Any other ensemble cast, like Breakfast Club is another one. They all center around a location, and just like a lot in games, we might have a central setting. So if we said our setting is going to be a space station, We're going to each introduce a character, and the first person has a job. One, they have the maybe the anxiety of going first, but your job is actually slightly easier because you have to come up with fewer things. So like, incentive to go first in this exercise. The first person is going to announce who they are, and what I like to encourage is that you come up with a name and kind of what your role is, and then what's something you believe in, like what's your worldview. So I might start and say, I am Captain Jana. I am brand new, freshly assigned to this space station, and I believe that everybody has a little bit of good in them. So that's my character. So somebody else would come in with another character, and you have the same thing but one more. So you want a name, what your role is, what's something that you believe in, and how do you feel or how do you know one of the other characters. So the second person to come in, the only option is me. How do they know me, but specifically how do they feel about me?
So I'm Stu the janitor.
Yes.
I'm really shy around people, and I prefer to talk to robots, or machines, just machines. And I admire the captain for her ability to interact with other people.
Fantastic. So the next person can tie themselves to either of us. So it's kind of how you know that person, but also like how you feel about them.
My name is Zoya. I am the ship's, or the space station's, experimental medical officer. My guiding philosophy is that there is no sacrifice too great in the name of science. And I have sort of a grudging respect for Stu. He saw some things, and I respect that he has kept his mouth shut about them.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, my name is Felez, and I am a lazy layabout who is here as the cultural attaché because I believe my father bribed the captain.
So how do you feel about me though? If your link is
I think you're bribed. Whether you actually did or whether you just thought I needed some experience out in the world, that's up to you on this point.
That's fair. Do you like, are you happy that I was bribed, or are you judging me for taking money?
No, I think that's just the way of things.
Got it.
That people are bribed and people with money do such things.
Okay,
As
cool.
clearly I have.
Great. So after everybody kind of comes in and introduces their character, we all say something at the same time and make a hand gesture. And this one is, we do little jazz hands and say, "Classic cast."
Classic.
Classic cast.
Classic. I don't know why that game has that, but I was so excited when I learned that years
It does,
back.
because why not?
It does, yeah, exactly. So that I think is a great exercise for thinking about building relationships, and the same things that we were doing, with I'm a Tree, of bringing in one thing and adding another. We're adding characters now as opposed to just things, but we're tying them together. And it's important when you're having relationships. It's not just we're related or you're my boss, but we're siblings and we have a constant rivalry. You're my boss, and I think you are the smartest person in the world. You have to. It's kind of, why does this person matter to you, either positively or negatively? And that gives you that motivation that then is going to like color your interactions. So that's like a huge thing when you're practicing relationships in improv, is how does this person make you feel? And that's also kind of another trick of things to get a way to get out of a scene, is to talk about how you feel.
Okay.
Sure.
And or think about, how does the thing that person just told you make you feel? And so you link it back to them. So what did people think about that? We can practice it once more, but I just wanted to check in.
I like that it kind of gives you real quick links to other people. So like
Mhm.
it also means you don't have to set up everything about your character. Like
Mhm.
with yours, Jonathan was like, oh well, I think she took a bribe. It's like, okay, well, not only are you possibly taking a bribe, but now we've established that his dad's willing to pay people off. So you've got
Mhm.
it kind of
Mhm.
quickly. One little sentence kind of can branch off as needed.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
it's good to check in, to make sure that we all kind of understand what these facts mean. Because that was a fact that was establishing something about my character. Now I'm the type of character who would take a bribe.
Mhm.
Maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but you believe it. And that gives me
Yep.
the option to be like, I think I did take that bribe. Like I'm gonna,
Yeah.
yeah.
Make that space
Or I
paint.
might Yeah, or I might play with character knowledge versus player knowledge and be like, my character is the most honest person in the world. I love the idea that you think that you can take a bribe. We're gonna
Yeah.
play with that constantly, that
Yeah.
misunderstanding.
Yep.
So we could lean into either of those. Any other thoughts that people had? No. Cool. Let's do it one more time. What is another like setting, kind of central location that we could have, and that'll help us also determine like the genre of the game. Or
The
of
ski lodge.
a ski lodge.
Mm.
Yes.
Uh,
All right. I'm gonna come in with this. I'm Brett. I am a ski instructor at this lodge. I believe that everybody has it in them to be a winner if they want it enough.
I am Chip. Um, I am. I am like I'm gonna be a bartender of some kinds.
Yeah.
And I have secret unrequited love for Brett.
Cool. All right, I'm glad that you brought that up because I wanted to bring up, especially because romance is a super common relationship, that it's always good when you give that type of establishing fact just to like give a moment to check in. I think that's hilarious, so I definitely go with it.
I just assumed that would happen at a ski lodge. I don't know.
It
yeah.
makes perfect sense that you would have unrequited love at a ski lodge. So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Sarah. I run the rescue patrol, and I really think that sometimes people just need a little help. I also think that Brett pushes people too hard and hurts people because of it.
yeah,
Mm.
probably.
What's up? My name's Thad. My dad owns a dealership. It's no big deal. Um, I really want to win Sarah's heart. So I feel like if I hang out with Brett, there's a lot of promise there. He can teach me some stuff. I can do some sick moves on the slopes. She's totally gonna love me.
Well, that sounds like a classic.
Classic cast.
Classic.
Yes.
Damn it! I hiccuped water.
Oh, no.
I that made me think so much of that movie Ski Patrol. I'm
Uh-huh.
Yes.
sure that movie doesn't hold up, but I remember enjoying it as a
Yep.
kid.
Well, I loved how like we were all so clearly on the same page there.
Oh
right?
yeah.
You know.
The name said it like so
Yeah.
clearly of time period a little bit, just the general vibe of these like dirtbag characters.
Shithead
Yeah,
Ski
I love
Lodge,
that
the
movie.
movie.
Yeah, I liked that a lot.
Oh, there's gotta be like an avalanche in Act 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I liked the things that people said about themselves, and we had some honorable characters, some dishonorable characters, and a lot of variety in kind of how we knew each other and felt about each other. So super cool. Yeah, so that I think that's a really great game to kind of practice, like Insta Party. Like we've
Mhm.
done it, we've made and obviously it's if you were doing this at a table and you actually wanted to put this into practice, you could play an an exercise like this and then be like, all right, those are our characters. We're gonna, now we're gonna flesh them out. We built this concept together,
Mhm.
and we can fill in as many of the blanks as we want now. So I think a lot of these games work as really good kind of session zero brainstorming, and just framing of as a jumping off point for your games. So I wanted to, if we have time to do a little bit more,
Yeah,
there I wanted to
maybe
focus.
like another 1 or 2 games or something.
Yeah,
Okay,
perfect. That's what I had planned. I wanted to focus a little bit on like GMing skill
perfect.
uh, exercises because I hear the phrase improv GM a lot, and I and I think it's great. But I think the skills that a GM utilizes in terms of improv can be different from what players are doing. And I focus a lot on like player buy-in and collaboration, but there is a lot of wonderful practice that GMs can actually do to get more in the improv mind. And one of the things that I like to practice are exercises on just narration.
Okay.
And so there's one that's not in the book. But I know, so excuse me, or bummer, it's not in there. But like, there's so many great improv exercises out there in the world. So there's just so much more than is in this little book. But the way that this is going to work is I think what we'll do. I'll kind of direct it, and maybe the three of y'all can do this exercise. So, one of you, let's say, Aaron, I would love for you to tell us kind of a 1 minute ish story
Mm-hmm.
about your day today so far. And you can just be 100% factual and totally boring about it, but just tell us kind of like a couple events that happened in your day. Now, Jonathan and Mike, I would like you to listen as carefully as you can. You're going to have to retell this story, but you're going to focus on adding a lot of like color and description on just one particular sense. So Jonathan, I'd like you to, when you retell this story, highlight all of the visual. So light and color and just everything that one might see. And so like paint the picture in terms of things that we would see. And Mike, I would love for you to, when you retell the story, everything that one might hear. So all the sounds that everything makes.
Okay.
So if we had a larger group, we could split up even more of the senses.
Mhm.
Somebody could do like how
You
everything
tell a story
feels.
by smells.
Yes, smell and taste. But we'll just do kind of the visual and the audio. So Aaron, if you can give us just like kind of a short summary of like what your day was like today.
Sure. Um, so today I got to sleep in a little bit. I went to work late because I was going to my youngest son's moving up ceremony at school. It's kind of where they celebrate the end of the year, give out medals and certificates and all that sort of stuff. After that, I came to work, showed up just in time for my first meeting on my new team. Then we went out to lunch, got some hamburgers, came back to work, spent 4 hours trying to get a broken computer to work and failing. Um, then decided basically I'd have to re-image the whole thing, and that's where I ended my workday. Came home, make some dinner, and just kind of hung out. Now I'm doing a stream.
Fantastic. Great. So Jonathan, I would like you to retell that as much as you remember, and if you just get like really into the first hour of that day, totally fine. It's not a memory test.
It is.
But I want you to throw in as much description as you want on how everything looked, and you can make up as much as you want about the visual. You're adding in all of that detail.
Okay. Am I telling it in the first person or as if she was
Yeah,
telling it?
yeah. Tell
Okay.
it as if it's your story.
So I got to go in late to work today a little bit, so I got to enjoy the morning darkness a little bit. I got to sleep through it and see the sun come through my window, which is not normal for me because normally I'm up really early. But then I got to go and see my youngest graduate, and he was so smiling with a beaming face, a bright light, and he had this little golden medal that glowed with just all the happiness that he seemed to have. And then I went into work and I got to see my new team, and they all looked wonderful in their beautiful professional glares garments and their happy faces and warmly greeting me to my new team. And then we went out and we had lunch, and I just had the most picture perfect hamburger with a little lettuce on top, and the perfectly red tomato on top of just a beautiful bun. It was wonderful. And then in the afternoon I spent all of it looking at the harsh cathode light from my computer as it grumpily refused to work. And I came home and I cooked some beautiful potatoes that I remember seeing on Twitter, and they looked gorgeous with those browns and those greens. They were crispy, and then I had a fun improv session with glowy lights and beautiful smiling friends and looking at me waving.
Great, fantastic. Yeah, I loved all the lights. I loved people's expressions and the colors of the things around there. So cool, perfect. So Mike, you're going to tell the story from your perspective, and as many details as you can about like how things sounded.
So I woke up this morning at first to the sound of children's laughter. It's quiet, kind of far off, and then more insistent. And then, of course, they burst into the room and uh, yelling, arguing over a toy, perhaps being playful. And that, of course, was my cue to get up and spend a bit of time in traffic listening to the honking of the horns and the roaring of the cars and the engine as it goes by. And, at when I finally got to work, I got to listen to people. Oh no! First, I went to a ceremony with for my kids, and I listened to the accolades of the various kids won awards for the year about their personal growth, things that the teachers wanted to reinforce, probably with the kids. After that, I went to work and I got to meet my new teammates, hear the way that they pronounce their own names, introduce themselves to me. Uh, Collect that bit of information, and then off to lunch. We went to a burger place, listening to the wait staff greet us as we got there, and the cooks take orders, and the sizzle of the burgers as it hits the grill, and the gentle chatter of everyone around you, and that special sound that gets where all the voices meld together into not quite distinct, but somehow comforting nonetheless. And then uh, talking to my partners at home and my kids, and the sound of cooking food and the laughter of the podcast.
Fantastic. Awesome. I loved the waking up to laughter, and also like the little details of the sizzle of
Is anybody else hungry?
They looked really good.
crispy burger and the perfect lettuce and the sizzle of the food. So I'm hungry. So Aaron, I'm gonna pass this back to you. What I would invite you to do now is tell the story again and pull in any of the details that Jonathan and Mike had that you liked. So kind of summarize the story again and borrow as many of those details that they gave you as you'd like.
Okay, sorry, my cat jumped up beside me and scared the shit out of me. Cora, you suck. So, I woke up this morning. I got to sleep in a little bit later than normal. But as usual, I didn't need an alarm clock because the shouting from the kids running down the hallway woke me up. It's nature's alarm clock, I call it. But we woke up. We got to enjoy the sunrise together and point out all the different colors. And then I got ready to head to his school for his ceremony. We're stuck in a little bit of traffic, so you got the horns and the engines, and they're kind of competing with the sound of the music playing, and the kids like to pick out all the different colors of the cars. Um, but yeah, we made it to school, and it's just colors and lights and noises everywhere, basically. You've got the kids talking. You've got the voices of the teachers being amplified over the sound system in the auditorium. You've got all kinds of different colored paper for different colors, for different certificates, and they've got the medals on their chests, and they're smiling and um, jumping around because good luck getting a kid to sit still. And I made it to work, and we went and God, what are you doing? No.
What is happening?
She just sat like right in front of my screen and is staring at me as I'm telling the story, and I was like, "This is not a story for you." I think my cat's a person.
Okay.
So
We can cut it there.
sorry.
Cat should grow
But that was
attention.
awesome. So these types of exercises are good as a reminder of all the different ways that we can add description. And oftentimes people might get locked into kind of just the visual and forget that we can throw in sounds and smells and tastes and
Mhm.
textures. And but sometimes people they might favor another one too. And so it's a good exercise to challenge yourself to try to come up with describing things in a different way. And when you focus just on one sense of like really drilling into it and thinking about what are all the different ways that I can describe how things sound, and you kind of discover sounds in places that you might not have before. So what did people feel about that exercise? What did you like? What did you find challenging?
It's hard trying to remember as many of the details as you can
Yeah.
from somebody else's retelling, but
Mm-hmm.
I do like that it kind of challenges you to think about different details that normally you either take
Mhm.
for granted or kind of think are beneath, like not beneath like other people's notice or anything, but like stuff that normally you don't take the time to bother describing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are going to pick up things that you didn't think maybe were important, but they're
Right.
like, "Ooh, I like that idea. I want to embellish that."
I wish I had taken notes.
Oh, well, I mean, in teaching it, I try to remind people it's not a memory test, and it is your own story that you're telling, so you can embellish it in any way, and you don't have to reach the same point that the other person did for it to be over. Um, if you wanted to really make it more of a listening practice, you could do just straight, not trying to change a thing, but one person tells a story and you repeat it back to them, and that's a a different type of improv exercise that's just practicing your listening
Mm.
really, really well.
It sounds stressful.
It can be,
As
but
someone
it
with
is fun.
ADD, that sounds stressful.
Yeah, but I mean, but these are the types of things that we do, to practice various
Absolutely.
skills, and they can be really challenging. And I think that this is an exercise that can be challenging because you have a couple different things going on.
Yeah.
Um, but how did it feel to kind of focus on either just the sounds or the sights?
Well, like it prompts you to put more detail in than you might otherwise, because
Mhm.
you're now thinking about it through, well, what did that look like? What did that smell like?
Mhm.
Instead of just, well, here's the scene, right?
Yeah.
There are two dudes at the bar, or whatever you need to hit.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I liked it because it encourages you to show more than tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
good to throw in details when they come to you, to help paint the picture. And and there's always something really satisfying, when we hear, ooh, the sizzle of the burgers. You're like, yeah, I'm there now. I'm more like engaged in this setting now because I can imagine it on a couple of different senses, as
Yeah.
opposed to just theater of the mind of what. Again,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we just focus on the visual,
Yeah.
but even the visual can be really important when we throw in things like light and color, and physical descriptors, things like that. So a follow-up to this exercise is a little practice of balancing, calling color versus plot. So the exercise is called color in advance, and it can be a little challenging. So I will kind of leave it up to y'all. If one person would like to volunteer to kind of be a storyteller, you're going to have to tell a story on the spot, a short one, but again, if somebody is up to that challenge.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool, awesome. So Mike, you're going to tell a story, and this can be It doesn't have to be the most interesting story in the world. We'll make it interesting through the telling of it. If you just want to like kind of retell the plot of a movie or something, and tell us all about Die Hard, but we'll pretend like we don't know that we're talking about Die Hard, that's also fine. Because the challenge is not you coming up with an original story, but as listeners, we are going to occasionally interject. And oftentimes I would play this with in pairs. So I actually might sit out, but throw it to Aaron and Jonathan to kind of bring in this other part.
Sure.
Is as listeners, you're going to you're going to be Mike's biggest fan because Mike is telling a story off the top of his head, and that is challenging. So like, be super a fan. So when we play this in person, I often always encourage like face your partner, like do active listening, like have fun with this. They are performing for you right now, so like be engaged. A little harder to do over stream, but just as a reminder. And then at any time that you want to hear more color, you want to hear more description, you're going to call that out and just interrupt. And you're going to say color, and it's helpful sometimes to say what you want color on. So it could be color on the kids at the graduation ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Color on the diner, color on the burger.
Okay.
And that is an indicator for Mike to kind of stop the plot of the story and just paint the scene. And you can focus on, telling it however you want, but we're gonna, as listeners, kind of indicate what we want to get more detail on. So if you said, and then there was the bartender, and we say, ooh, color on the bartender, like just keep painting the picture of the bartender for us. And then once we as listeners are like satisfied and we're like, cool, yeah, I've heard like all the fun details I can, then we're going to say advance, which means go back to plot.
Okay.
So
Wow.
so Mike, you're going to be switching back and forth between kind of telling a story and then occasionally pausing to just describe everything in it, or describe just one thing in it if we want to drill down, and then go back to plot when we ask you to.
Okay.
And we'll just do a story for like about a minute.
Sure. Cool.
Okay. Cool. So whenever you feel like starting.
All right. So long ago in the 1980s, a police officer is walking through
Color on the police officer.
the police officer is an older white male with a blue uniform. He's not actually well dressed. His uniform is slightly untucked on the left side. He's missing a hat. And it looks like he hasn't shaven in 2 or 3 days.
Advance.
Plot.
The police officer goes down to a cell and opens a door and looks in on the inmate. The inmate is up against the wall. He seems to be hanging, but it's not entirely clear from what. He takes a note out of the inmate's pocket and he
Color
says,
on the note.
the note is a wrinkled piece of toilet paper that has been written on.
Yeah.
It's from with blue ink that's kind of bled through the paper. And none of the words are quite legible from our standpoint, but the texture appears to be wrinkled but flattened repeatedly. So like they try to get the wrinkles out of it.
Advance.
The officer says, you really think you get away with killing yourself? And the inmate, kill myself. And he bonks the police officer, jumps down off the wall that he had hung himself there with a pipe, and walks out of the police station, where he sees a 4x4 Jeep waiting for him. In the car is his
Color
brother
on
and
the
his
Jeep.
mother. The Jeep is an old rusted mint green. There is there's a spiral fracture in the back left window. There's a bumper sticker that had been on there once that says "I don't break," but it had been mostly peeled off, so it just says "I don't" at this point. The bumpers are fitted in both the front and the back, and there's saltine cracker wrappers littered on the outside, around the outside of the front window. Apparently, the
Advance.
a while. There's a brother is pouring gasoline around the police station out of a giant red gasoline canister. And he sees his other brother coming. He throws it to the ground, jumps into the car, and cocks a pistol. The brother jumps into the car. They begin to speed away, but the police officers are coming out of the police officer precinct. So he shoots the ground, and now there's fire. And
Oh,
fire.
color on the fire.
Yes. Yes. Color on the fire.
It's that gas fire, right? It's kind of like weak orange flames that kind of trickle up to blue as they kind of lick, they spread around. but they also give off a lot of that greasy smoke color that that happens.
Advance.
And the Jeep drives away, screaming down the road as the police officers are stymied by this tiny amount of gas fire.
I'm gonna cut the scene there. No, it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Woo! So in exercises like this, I think it's always really important to kind of thank our partners. So thank you, Mike, so much for that
Yes,
story.
that was really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you.
Yeah.
Super
So that was great. And I loved all of the different colors, all of the different details that you gave to things. So checking in with Mike, how did that feel for you?
Exciting.
What was exciting? Tell me about that.
I liked having to switch gears on the fly back and forth.
Mhm.
So I was prepared, and that you described what was going to happen, but I was also excited with that nervous excitement, right? You're not sure
Yeah.
what's going to happen, and am
Mhm.
I going to get everything that I'm going to say, and then just start embellishing as well as I could and draw from other things.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun challenge to do, to be the storyteller. So Jonathan and Aaron, how is that for you as listeners?
I liked it. It's sometimes when I start getting wrapped up in a story, it's hard to remember that like I have a part to do in this.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, wait, what's gonna happen? And I'm like, color the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily Jonathan was
Yeah.
there to help.
Well,
Yeah.
I liked that. All right, so like this brought me back as a gamer too. Box text, and it's like, hey, I can customize the box text whenever I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
like
care about the
box-
brother. Tell me more about the Jeep.
Box text can be great sometimes. We just don't want all box text.
Right.
And we don't want no box text. Like we want to figure out that balance. And everybody's gonna have their own preference as a storyteller of which one they do more. And so
Mhm.
this is a really good exercise to kind of discover that about yourself, of like, gosh, I just spent a lot of time like coloring everything and not so much plot, or like, wow, I'm very plot heavy. And it's also good as the listener to kind of learn about, which one are you more interested in. And then it's fun to learn like which things did you want color on. We wanted
Mhm.
color on the Jeep. And God, like the saltine crack, it was so good. It was such a good thing from the color of it. So that type of exercise is really good for GMs to practice balancing their narration in terms of description versus moving plot forward, because we can only paint so many things in that dungeon. And as players, we're kind of like, but which one is the one that has the key in it? Like, I looked at you told me that there were 12 tin cups in this dungeon, and I looked at all of them. So sometimes there can be too much, because we're trying to find significance sometimes in these
Yeah.
things. So it's good to kind of know your limits, but also it's fun to play with. And so I like that exercise for that narration challenge. So in conclusion, there's so many great improv-y skill games that we can use to practice to enhance the different ways that we want to tell stories. And so I think that improv can be very practical in that sense,
Oh yeah.
of not just like making shit up on the spot, but you can really drill down into the different types of ways that you want to enhance your storytelling.
Hmm.
So buy my book.
Yeah.
Or take an improv class.
Buy my book.
But I know, I always think that, and I was like, does anyone even know the critic anymore? Is that how old I am?
Oh
It
yeah.
stinks.
Yeah.
Right.
No. I
I'm gonna be like this. Buy my book.
Yeah.
Buy my
Well,
book.
I want to buy your book now and play it on stream. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love it if you did that, and please, hack the games to whatever works for you, because just because they're written in this book doesn't mean that that's the only way that they can be played.
Are
Absolutely.
you trying to tell me that improv doesn't have rules? I'm really confused by this.
I'm saying that it's malleable, and that you should take what works for you,
Malleable like a butter sculpture.
like a butter sculpture. Yes.
like what you
So
don't want in your hair.
so I studied for a while in Cork in Ireland, and there is a butter museum, which I have
My
still never
God.
been to. I keep threatening to go, and then I don't go. but apparently Cork was like, because it's a port city in Ireland, and so it was like the last port of call, and the butter trade. I don't know.
Yeah.
The butter trade.
I love those old little weird things because like
hmm
Syracuse has a suburb called Liverpool, and I never knew what it was about. Like, why is there in the middle of the lake? It's because Syracuse is a big salt city, and at the time, Liverpool salt was the best salt in the world. So this way they could put
Ah,
Liverpool on the bags.
love it.
Very clever.
I'm like, so you're telling me that suburb I always thought was kind of classy? Nope, nope. Based on fraud.
I love it.
Oh.
Well, thank y'all for playing so much fun improv with me. I loved all of the things that we created. We did a lot. This is very much like a very quick smorgasbord of some of the things that I would do in a workshop.
A nice buffet.
Yeah.
It was super fun and got
yeah.
me super interested in improv.
Yes, this was
Great.
really great.
That's my goal.
Do you
Take
want
classes.
I was about to say, do you want to give your outro and non-capitalist shout out at the end of that, and we'll go from there?
Yeah. So my name is Karen. Karen 12s. I'm at K12s on the Twitter. I'm a gamer and an improviser, and so I wrote a book called Improv for Gamers. But my non-capitalist shout out, God, I had one because I was thinking about this in advance, and now I have forgotten it. So I think my non-capitalist shout out for today. What is something that brought me joy today? Sean, my husband Sean, is like right over there, and he just looked at me like.
So, is your non-capitalist
yes.
shout out Sean?
Yeah, my non-capitalist shout out is Sean, who is very kind, and I love him very much.
He is a very lovely
shout
human.
out, like y'all should be super jealous that I'm married to this guy. So, and that's me.
Jonathan, where can people find you on Twitter?
Did you get the hiccups again? Oh
Yeah, if you really want to see me not do anything on Twitter, you can look at ¡Quippish. I occasionally like things. And wait, non-capitalist shout out.
Damn right.
Give blood. I just made an appointment today.
no. Yeah.
that.
I'm Mike J. Darkson Berard. You can find me at JDarkson. My non-capitalist shout out is do something kind for an animal, even if the grackles intimidate the heck out of you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Aaron. You can find me on Twitter at theroadvirus_. If you feel like following me, most of the stuff I post is either blatant flirting with people, food, selfies, podcast stuff,
I'm in.
or streams.
Done.
If you want to follow the podcast, you can do that by looking up That D&D Podcast on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon, Facebook, and we're going to have it laser engraved on the side of the moon at some point in the future.
Yeah.
And my non-capitalist shout out of the day is enforce and respect your own boundaries. It may suck in the moment, but tell someone no if you have to. Because if you don't stand up for yourself, nobody will. Well, other people will, but it's important to stand up for yourself. So thank you, everybody. Stay tuned. We will probably have announcements sometime in the future, and we may also have an announcement for a Mysterium cosplay stream at some point.
Yes.
I don't know if you
We'll
were
make it
serious, but I was.
I want to do this.
Okay.
I don't know when, but we should put it on the calendar and make it happen.
Okay. I have a good idea for a ghost costume. So I have an old Halloween outfit. It was like one of those wizard robes, and I wove the electroluminescent wire through the hood.
Oh, I remember that.
And then I put like this weird crackly eye makeup on, and then in the dark, that was the only thing you can see on my face. It was just pale with weird crackles. It was fantastic.
That sounds amazing.
I'll
Yes.
show you
Well-
when we do the stream.
We'll figure this out. Yeah, the rest of us will assign characters for the rest of us and spend some time getting costuming. It'd be great.
This is yes, this would be fantastic. So yes, I'm gonna actually end the stream now. I'm terrible at outros. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.
Peace.